What's up, guys? Rick here with your preview for this week's US Open, Pinehurst #2. And I'm disappointed to not be going to Pinehurst this week, but I'm going to look at the positives because now I'm going to be here in the studio, in the war room, with all my monitors and screens and data and being able to crunch everything in real time and follow along for everything. So it'll be a little different than the other major championships that I've experienced this year. And it should be a great time. I'm going to take the positives out of it and do as much content, as much data as possible. So before we jump into this week, which is going to be a full-on data-driven research episode into both Pinehurst #2, but of course, those who are going to be teeing it up this week at the US Open. Real quick announcement off the top. Our listener league, the league that we run every single week on Splash, is now the guaranteed league this week. So that means they've guaranteed $25,000 in the prize pool. It's a $20 entry. You can win up to $2,500. It's legal in 40 or 41 different states plus DC. The link is in the description. Check it out. They've done such a great job with us this year, and they've been a really good partner. And they chose our contest again to make it the guaranteed contest for the week. So it's great. You pick one golfer from each of 6 tiers. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy it, and now we're getting the big bump for this week. So go get in there and see if we can fill it up, or if not, hey, there'll be a little bit of an overlay. Not bad for anybody. All right, let's jump into Pinehurst #2. Okay, major championship courses are always a little bit weird, always a little bit different. I'm going to have to show you a lot of different resources. We're going to start with, this is my website, RickRunGood.com. Most of what you see in this episode will be from my website. It's a giant database for golf betting and golf fantasy. I love it. I think you'll love it too. The data that we do have is from 2014. So that's like some of the shot link data. Not everything is available, obviously, and it's only 1 year and it was 10 years ago, but we do have data, and you'll see right off the bat. I mean, this thing's a brute, right? Like I don't want to sugarcoat this. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult. The winning score in 2014 was 8 or 9 under. That was Martin Keimer. But I think there were only 3 guys under par. He won by like 7 shots or 8 shots. It was something outrageous. 1 under, I think, was second, and I think there were only 2 guys under par. It is a par 70, 7,500 yards. It is long. It is. I mean, we could cover this from so many different angles here. So let's just jump into this. Show you a couple of resources. First off, as I kind of talk through this, I'm going to play this great Golf Digest video that they do for a lot of these courses called Every Hole At, and it walks you through every single hole with drone footage and really allows you to get an idea of how this golf course looks and how it's going to play. So I want to point out a couple of things just as we go here, and maybe we'll work our way back. Okay, we'll start at greens and work our way back. You see this style of green. The word of the week is going to be turtleback. The other word of the week is going to be wiregrass. We'll talk about both of those, but we'll start with turtleback. Look at how everything runs off the edges of these greens, okay? I heard someone describe it as trying to hit a 180-yard shot into on top of a Volkswagen Beetle or something like that, right? Because everything runs off. So while the greens are large, 6,000 square feet on average, they are effectively so much smaller because here's #2, right? Everything, or well, I might have jumped around here, but this is the par 3 where everything runs off the sides. There's just no way to hold the greens. You know they're going to be firm. You know they're going to be fast. The green side areas are going to be incredibly difficult. So that was #6, excuse me. This is going to be a course, and we saw this in 2014 as well. It's going to be difficult to hit a lot of greens, and when you are around the greens, you're going to have a lot of difficult shots. You're going to need a ton of creativity. So I think this week more than most, the short game guys are going to be really valuable. When you look at some of the approaches, yes, a great approach shots will be rewarded and bad approach shots will be punished. but I think it's going to be, you're going to have to some incredible approach shots to hold some of these greens and have a lot of birdie looks. I mean, you're just looking, here's, off the back here, 1 yard off behind that pin, everything is rolling away, and there is no long grass to save you, right? I mean, you could conceivably roll 20 yards over this green by landing it 1 foot too far on the green. And that's common. There's no thick rough here to stop your golf ball. It's also going to create more difficult shots around the green because guys are going to have to play off of tight lies. The ball might be a little bit above their feet, a little bit below, maybe a little bit of a downhill, a little bit of an uphill, right? Like there's going to be just a lot of those situations. And again, I'm just showing you the green complexes. We haven't even gotten to the wiregrass portion of the show yet. But it's going to be truly challenging on and around these greens. Okay. So turtleback, that is word number 1. Word number 2 is wiregrass. And you'll see here from the overhead footage. So this is hole number 1 at the 300-yard mark, 26 yards wide. And what do you have? Again, no rough. It's like, no, there's no rough out here. So you're not getting the long rough around the greens, and you're certainly not getting it left and right of the fairway. Everything runs off into sandy native areas and wiregrass. What is wiregrass? The best way that I can show you this is this photo from the USGA. This is such a great look at it, right? Ball rolls right off the fairway, no first cut, no primary cut, nothing. And then you are in the mercy of luck, right? Is it going to lay in a flat spot or a bare spot? If it is, you'll be able to access the golf ball. No problem there. Is it going to get into this wiregrass, this just like patchy, thick, ugly stuff that's going to try to grab your golf club, try to impede your swing, all of that. And you're kind of just at the mercy of it, right? And I think you're going to be able to get your club on the ball most of the time. It'll just be a matter of how well you're able to judge that and how much you can avoid it. But it's going to create I believe, a bigger delta in the scores, right? I think there's, low score might be even par. And then I think you're going to have guys who really, really get unlucky and really struggle because of that sandy wiregrass. If you look at how prevalent it's going to be, again, here's hole number 1 at 300 yards, only a 26-yard wide landing area. Hole number 2 is a little bit wider at 300, but after 300, it starts to pinch. And again, if you're getting firm, fast conditions, it's not about landing your ball in the fairway. It is about keeping it in the fairway. And you could probably see it rolling out quite a bit. Hole number 3 is actually a shorter par 4, which you might see guys try to work it up there into the bunker. Number 4 is a monster here. So 4 and 5 are just beasts of a hole. I believe they played, 4 was one of the most difficult holes last year. 5 is a par 5, so there's a little bit of a reprieve there. But you're talking about, at the 300-yard mark, 31 yards wide, and then a 230-yard approach shot. That is so hard. Here's the dispersion from 231 yards for Tour Pro. Okay. There's a lot of missed greens here, and this green is effectively a lot smaller than what you're actually seeing because everything is rolling off. And this is in ideal conditions, right? I mean, these dispersions. So you're talking about balls that they're not going to just roll 1 yard off and stop in thick rough. They're going to end up down here, over here, wiregrass, all that stuff. Needless to say, I think this is going to be a very challenging test. The mental side of Pinehurst number 2 is also interesting because what you have is options, right? Look at that. Look, I mean, and the camera always flattens curves and hills like that, and that still looks like it's five feet over your head or whatever. The course does not dictate one way to play. It is not required to play it through the air. It is not required to play it on the ground. Sometimes it'll actually be better to play it on the ground. We saw Martin Keimer, every time he missed a green, he putted it, right? And then he just would put it up there and knock it in. And that's how he battled around Pinehurst number 2 for the week, while other guys tried chipping it. So there is no one way to play. The other thing is that often the best routes to take are the ones that play you towards trouble, which is always great for major championships, right? If you hit a good shot and you pull it off, you are rewarded by the correct way to come in, great angles and all that fun stuff. If you don't pull it off, you are in a worse spot and now your errors start to compound. That is a very cool way to play major championship golf. So what are we looking for? Who are we looking for? I know this is kind of a bailout, but you need to have an all-around game. You need to be, in my opinion, sufficient around the greens. You're going to miss a lot of greens. Are you going to be able to get up and down? Bogey avoidance will be key. Distance is better than no distance. Remember, this is 7,500 yards on a par 70. It's one of the longer courses we're going to see this year. Playing on hard courses, playing on long courses, playing in major championships. These are the things that I think are going to separate themselves. So maybe at some venues, I don't care a lot about short game. I care a lot about it here, right? Get your Cam Smith and your Patrick Reed and your Hideki Matsuyama and your Justin Thomas and, you know, all these guys, Scotty, obviously. I mean, getting boosts because of that short game ability. And then really, if you take the numbers, so the cool thing is, you know, we do have the numbers from, again, this is only 1 year. So it's the reason I didn't start with this. We do have the numbers from 2014. They're 10 years old and there's only 1 year. It loves the correlation model loves distance. It loves approach play. It loves around the green play. It loves putting. It loves tee to green play. It doesn't necessarily love off the tee, but it loves distance more than it likes accuracy. Which again, 1 year, but that's saying these are the stats that are most highly correlated to success here. And then you get into some others. 3-putt avoidance, that makes sense. A lot of putting stats. And if you take those numbers and you throw them on every golfer in this field over the last 36 rounds and you give each golfer an adjusted fit, it is no surprise that Scotty Scheffler gets the best adjusted fit. He's best player in the world, best all-around player in the world. Isaiah Salinda is next, but he does not have the number of requisite rounds to be taken too seriously here. Xander Schauffele is third. Rory McIlroy is fourth. And look who's next. Cam Smith is fifth. Have we had a time recently where Cam Smith has gotten a good adjusted fit number like this? Probably not, because what he does well is really suited for this golf course. We can talk more about him and some of the other live guys in a second. Terrell Hatton, Hideki Matsuyama, Wyndham Clark, John Rahm. We've got Rahm injury concerns, but those are the types of golfers that taking their last 36 rounds, plugging in the adjusted fit, or plugging in the correlation, those guys get the best boost in adjusted fit numbers. That's where we'll stop on the course for now. We have a lot more to talk about, and I think there's going to be a lot of great conversation. I think this is going to it's going to be such a great host for this week, and I think it's really going to be challenging and fun, but let's turn our attention to the field. All right, here it is, the cheat sheet on RickRunGood.com. We've got 6 golfers this week over $10,000. Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Brooks Koepka. So let's just start with the man at the top here. It's Scotty. He's fresh off of the win at the Memorial, in which he gained 12.8 strokes from tee to green. He's got 5 wins in his last 7 starts. His stat profile, I think I said this last week. I mean, it looks like a typo. It looks like a joke. He's unbelievable. He's the best player in the world. It's not even close. To put that into perspective, if you go to the power rankings, last 36 rounds, he's gaining 3.2 strokes per round. Xander Schauffele's gaining 2.4. So he's 0.8 of a stroke, nearly a full stroke better than number 2, which is the same gap from number 2 to number 8, 9. A couple guys with some small sample sizes at the U.S. Open, but he is a full stroke better, a stroke and a quarter better than Rory McIlroy, which is the 3rd best golfer, which is the same gap between him and Rory as there is a gap to golfer 45-ish, right? Like it's that big. And ever since he figured out the putter after Riviera, he's been unstoppable. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. The fact that the two biggest shots that he hit on Sunday at Muirfield Village were putts was very encouraging. Even though he lost strokes putting for the day on Sunday, he gained big for the week or gained for the week. And I mean, he was lipping things out on Sunday, but he rolls in a 16-footer on 16 to make par, massive spot. And then the putt for all the marbles, 4 feet, 9 inches down the hill, slippery, knowing that if he misses it, he's going to a playoff in all likelihood with Colin Morikawa, and he buries it for the win. I mean, that's the highest pressure moment that you can get. And he pulls it off, with what is supposed to be the weakest part of his game, and the rest of it's stellar. I think that Pinehurst number 2 is going to be a very strategic golf course. I think that he's not only the best in execution, I think he is the best in strategy as well. So all you can eat here on Scotty Scheffler. I'll also be really interested to see what the ownership is, which we'll talk about on the live chat Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time this week. Have a little commitment just before, so pushing it back an hour, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Set your alarms. Don't miss out on that. The rest of this 10K range is really fascinating. I think it's pretty clear that Xander Schauffele at 11,500 is probably the second best player in the world right now. That leapfrogs Rory McIlroy. I think Rory had a really good chance at Valhalla. I should say it was a course that set up really well for him. I think that there are, Quail Hollow obviously sets up really well for him. I'm not as sure about how Pinehurst sets up for Rory, but we'll talk about that in a second. Here's Xander. And so first start after the PGA Championship victory, first major, it's kind of like, okay, what are we going to get out of him? I'm not sure what we're going to get out of him. Well, he finished T8. He lost strokes on approach for the first time since Bay Hill. He putted the lights out. I think that I would have given him a lot of grace and a lot of slack for basically any result that he put together at Muirfield Village. The fact that he put together a T8 without even gaining on approach, and considering that's something he does week in and week out, that's probably on the better end of things. So I think Xander is probably the value of the 10K range because he's $600 cheaper than Rory. He's $1,500 cheaper than Scotty Scheffler. And I think he should probably be priced at like 12.2, 12.3, something of that nature. Rory McIlroy is unbelievably talented. I love his game. I actually think he's underrated in some respects. I think that of all the major championship venues that we get on a regular basis or have gotten in recent years, this one feels like it's below average for Rory. And it's not that I don't think he can contend and compete, but this is not like Valhalla. We knew he was going to gain 5.5 strokes off the tee. We knew he was going to gain 6 strokes at the Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow. We knew that. And we knew that was going to make up a pretty significant chunk of how many strokes he was going to gain over the course of the entire week. There is no guarantee he does that this week. Yes, I think his driver will be a weapon, but he's going to have to hit very solid second shots, which he's been much better at this year, but has still shown times to get into trouble. He has been capable of putting big cards on the number, right? His bogey avoidance and big number avoidance isn't great compared to these other high-priced golfers. I think he has an underrated around the green game, but this is going to test every facet of it. So I still believe that Rory is above average. He's probably one of the top, certainly one of the top 5 or 6 players in this field that can win it. I just don't think this is nearly as good of a setup as other majors and other US Open setups have been for him. And then the final 3 guys here are the live golfers that are really interesting. So I don't know. There's a lot of just oxygen being spent on Jon Rahm right now. He WDs during the second round of Live Golf Houston last week, in which I believe the official reason was that he has a blister in between his toes. I do not know. It sounds painful, sounds horrible. I would hate that. That would drive me crazy. I do not know how that's going to affect him moving forward. But what I do know is looking back, it's been a pretty subpar year for Rahm. miscut the PGA Championship, T45 at the Masters. He has not won on Live yet. He's played fine, but he hasn't won. When I was following him, and I followed him a lot at Valhalla, and I have followed Jon Rahm a lot over the last couple of years at majors, at PGA Tour events, at Live Golf events, and at even majors this year since he's gone to Live Golf events. And I have never seen him the way that he was at Valhalla, which was an incredibly frustrated golfer from the first tee. A very, he's always intense. So it wasn't that. It was just like almost just constantly on the verge of melting down, very frustrated, did not look like he was having any fun. I know this is all anecdotal, but that's what I saw. And it was very strange because I've seen a lot of Jon Rahm. The other concern that's not anecdotal is that now for 4 straight events, he's lost strokes on approach. And I do get, so RickRunGood.com, one of the things I'm most proud of is I get all the Live strokes gained. I get all the PGA Tour strokes gained, the European Tour strokes gained. So I have all of the data for all of these guys. And you can see that this is a pretty significant concern when it comes to Rahmbo. If any of this is helpful or interesting, hit the like button. It helps my channel a lot. Then you get Bryson and Brooks. Bryson, this feels a little, I better be careful what I say here, but there are some similarities to the style of golf that will be required at Pinehurst as what we saw at Augusta National. And let me explain, because I understand they're very different, but no rough on the golf course, but getting into trouble if you're offline and out of it. The landing zones are going to be much smaller here than they are at Augusta National. And then what I really mean is that it's going to require a lot of creativity on and around the greens. And we saw Bryson have a really good Masters week, but he lost strokes around the green. Because of the narrow nature and the randomness, if you do miss off the tee at Pinehurst, I would find it very difficult to believe he gains another 7 strokes off the tee like he did at the Masters. You just can't bomb it around Pinehurst like you can at Augusta National. So similar to Rory, this feels like it skews as one of the worst U.S. Open venues for him. If you go back to, we've got the last 5 years loaded in here, that win at Winged Foot in September of 2020, that's just an absolute perfect setup for Bryson. Valhalla, unbelievable setup for Bryson. This not so much, in my opinion. So kind of down on Bryson, but looking for the bounce back ability from Brooks. I think there was a lot of, there were very high expectations for Brooks at the PGA Championship because he was coming off the win at Live. He finished T26, but he wasn't bad. In fact, he was pretty good. He gained in all across his bag. His Saturday round is really the only thing that cost him. He gained over 3 strokes to the field every other day. He just played himself out of it in one round. And when this gets really firm, really fast, and guys start to eject, and it turns into a really big boy bloodbath major championship, that's when I want my Brooks Koepka to show up. Still having the putting troubles, lost 2.5 strokes putting in Live Houston, GC of Golf Club of Houston in only 3 rounds. That's concerning, but I think this is a pretty good bounce back spot for him after he was very popular at the PGA and probably let some people down. The 9K range has a lot of really interesting things going on here. So first of all, Victor Hovland, who, I declared as we're back, baby, and went off and touched, he touched the winning number last week. He was at 8 under at one point on Friday. And then the weekend was just really bad for Victor. He lost 3.8 strokes on Saturday, and he basically shot it was like a 75 or whatever, which was the field average on Sunday, which wasn't particularly great. Lost it around the greens again, which this is the concern. Is Victor going to get exposed around these greens, or is he going to play to a 0? And even though we've seen 6 good rounds around the green since getting back with Joe Mayo, the fact that his last 2, he lost big in both of them. And I know he got a little bit unlucky. He had a fried egg on one of them and had to play it basically back down the fairway. I do worry about Pinehurst kind of exposing and the ability to put up some of those big numbers around the green. Ludwig Oberg, no weaknesses, led everybody down at the PGA Championship with one of the best miscuts you could ask for, finished T5 the Memorial. We are now basically exactly 1 year into his pro career, right? He turned pro right around this time last year. So if we just go back and, since he turned pro, which would have been June of 2023, so we'll just call it June 1st. I think it was mid-June. He is the 5th best player in the world. Okay. Scotty Scheffler, 2.4 strokes gained per round. Rory McIlroy, 2. Xander and Bryson, 1.7. Ludwig, 1.6. Better than Rahm, better than Victor, better than Colin, better than everybody but those 4 ahead of him. And major championship golf, it feels a lot like, Will Zalatoris as he was getting kind of into his first couple major championships. Major championship golf feels like the best place for Ludwig. I mean, Sunday was a major at Muirfield Village. Played 3 strokes over par, played to a 75. Shane Lowry shot like an 87 or something. And he was able to put together a 74, which gains a stroke to the field. He's just so good. I cannot continue to say that. The rest of this range. So real quick, I'm going to need to see more from Patrick Cantlay. I'm going to need to see something from Patrick Cantlay. When you finish T50, when you're having the worst season that you've had as a professional, and you don't play well at the PGA Championship, you miss the cut at Muirfield Village, which is a place that you've dominated. You are now struggling to hit fairways and greens, which is going to get exasperated here. Plus, the U.S. Open hasn't always been your greatest major. Yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna need to see something. Look, I've tried to build the case for him. I gave him one more crack at Muirfield Village because of what he did at Harbor Town, just kind of flipping the switch at a place that's been really good for him. I'm out there. Wyndham Clark, and I want to be fair here. Wyndham Clark is our defending champion. Wyndham Clark, in my opinion, statistically and anecdotally, is nowhere near that level. I'll pull up his profile here, but in the same way, what I saw at Valhalla with John Rahm, I took note of because it was incredibly unusual, and I've never seen Rahm like that before. I saw a lot of similar things with Wyndham Clark. It's impossible to quantify, but when you see a guy who from the jump is incredibly frustrated, looks like he's grinding, looks like nothing is working for him. You see he's boiling. I'm talking about Wyndham Clark as well here. Just boiling all the time. That's a concern. And then when you match that with this really big downturn in approach play, right? The thing that turned Wyndham Clark from an average Joe on the PGA Tour to a major champion was that he figured out how to hit those second shots. And as soon as he did that and he saw gains there, he pops off and wins the Wells Fargo. He wins the US Open. He wins the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Like it's crazy. And now we're in the midst of a 6-event stretch in which he's lost pretty significantly. Plus the fact that his putter has been hit or miss, which is usually a strength of his. His short game is not good enough. The last 6 starts for Wyndham Clark have been a disaster. And this is a place that is going to expose a lot of weaknesses. That leaves Colin Morikawa as the only guy that we haven't talked about here. I think he's going to be popular, and I think he should be. We've been tracking this approach trend from him for the last handful of weeks. If we go back to, let's go back to the Masters here. So let's go back to 4/14 or 4, whatever that week was. I'm going the wrong way. 11 would have been that Thursday. So, since the Masters, of golfers who have, let's do PGA Tour rounds only because those will all be Measured rounds. Come on. My computer wants to run slow when we've got when I've got like my screen recording and everything rocking and rolling here. Let's see. Colin has gained a half a stroke per round on approach and zero point 0.7 strokes off the tee. So he's gaining 1.26 strokes ball striking, which is the most of anybody with as many rounds. I'm twisting that a little bit because Scotty's been way better, but he has 5 fewer rounds, right? I am twisting that a little bit. But of guys that have a decent sample size, Scotty Scheffler, Aaron Rai, Xander, Victor Hovland, Rory McIlroy, Sepp Straka, Colin Morikawa. And that's the class you expect Colin to be in, right? You expect him to be in that class of elite approach play. Look what his putter has done. 5 of the last 6, he's gained at least a stroke on the putting surfaces. He's gaining off the tee in every event dating back to Bay Hill. He's very accurate off the tee, which is going to be helpful here. His short game is underrated, and I saw some very confident putts, not only throughout the week, but on Sunday in particular, when he gave Scotty Scheffler basically all he could handle, right? Basically all he could handle, picking up 4 shots to the field on Sunday and closing that gap. I think Colin is back and playing really well. Quick note, that splash contest is the links in the description is $25,000 guaranteed. This is our listener league for this week. I talked about it at the top of the show, but I know a lot of you guys skipped that. And then also there were a handful of small, but very, very helpful, updates that were pushed to RickRunGood.com. So there's now more preset filters here. So if you just want to click into the field that these golfers are in and quickly see the tournament history, you can do that. If you quickly want to sort by their wins or their podiums or their top 10s or majors or seasons or tours or all that, you can do that now. You can collapse a lot more stuff and get this to be a little bit more user friendly. So there's just a little nuggets throughout the tools that you'll notice. Salary and projected ownership is now on the golfer profile page. So cool stuff like that. Always looking to make improvements as much as possible. Before we jump into the 8K range, I love going to like starting here and going to the trends tool because I want to find guys who are hot, who's playing above their baseline in the last 12, 24, 36, whatever that looks like. And let's go 24 rounds and see if we can find some 8K golfers. Not really. The 8K is a little bit of a void for heat right now. Max Homa's playing a little bit better in the last 24 than his 100 round baseline. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, I mean, it's really Hideki has been better. That's what this tool does. It looks at whatever number of rounds that you put in and compares it to their 100 round baseline, and then shows you how they've been playing. So this is kind of a weird void. They're big names, but guys that are not necessarily playing to their long-term self, if that makes sense. I'm not going to waste your time and energy on Justin Thomas. I'm a Justin Thomas believer. If you are not, that's fine. I just see it in the stats. He's a great approach player. His short game is underrated. Yes, we have a problem with the putter. Yes, he's disappoints more often than not. He's not expensive enough to deter me. So $8,900 is interesting. Cam Smith will be a very popular guy this week because people are going to know that this is a course that will allow you to play it on the ground. It will allow you to tap into your creativity. It will allow you to use your short game. I cannot stress caution enough. This to me looks terrifying. I realize he finished 6th at the Masters. He has not gained strokes off the tee since Live Jeddah at the end of 2023. He has lost strokes in live fields basically every time he's teed it up this year. Losing on approach, I mean, that is not really, that's not Cam Smith. Yes, Cam Smith is a short game specialist, and Cam Smith often loses strokes off the tee. He's a very good second shot player. Not anymore. I mean, he's been miserable. Now he's even lost strokes putting at both the PGA and Live Golf Houston. He tied Anthony Kim at Live Golf Houston. Lost 5.5 strokes from tee to green and another 2.5 with the putter. I don't know if this is the sleeper that everybody is going to hope that it is. We can find other guys who are going to be, overlooked, who have historically great around the green games pretty easily, right? We can go to the power rankings. We can sort this by around the green. We can go to the last 100 rounds and make sure everybody has, at least 50 rounds and see what we find. And even looking for guys in a similar price range, Hideki, Justin Thomas, both better. Terrell Hatton, nearly as good and cheaper. Jason Day, cheaper. I just don't think that this is going to be as great as everyone hopes it is. The rest of this range is so there's a couple of things. Talked about Hideki a lot. Hideki brings on a lot of WD risk. We know that. If you can get past that, he's got an unbelievable around the green game. He's a ball striking phenom. He plays well when it gets more difficult. Played well last week at Muirfield Village. Let's look up his U.S. Open. I'm going to say Open Championship like 10 times. His U.S. Open stuff here. I got to let it load first. That's on me. Second at Aaron Hills, 16th, 21st, 17th, 26th, 4th, and 32nd. So that is every cut made since 2017, no worse than a 32nd in any of them. In fact, he's only missed one cut. And he finished 35th here in 2014. He's one of the handful of guys who played this in 2014. I understand that was 10 years ago, but Hideki's been around a long time and playing well at major championships a long time. If you can stomach it, I think it's interesting. I think Tommy Fleetwood is a good, not great option. I wish I saw more out of Will Zalatoris last week, right? That was one of the guys that I said I was just waiting to see what he was going to do. What were we going to get? We got a losing week with the putter, but even more concerning, we got some really bad approach weeks. And now Zalatoris looks like he's regressing a little bit, and I'm concerned. The sneaky guy out of this range, in my opinion, is Matt Fitzpatrick. So let's get a little freaky here if you guys don't mind. Very quietly finishes T5 last week. Doesn't gain strokes on approach, which is a little bit concerning, but he did gain 2 on Sunday. His season has been all over the place. He's got good results. He's got bad results. We know he had the issue where he forgot that he had a weight in the grip of his driver. And once he fixed that, he fixed it. Let me point out a couple of things to you. This is a very strategic golf course. I've said that 1,000 times. It reminds me a lot of TPC Sawgrass in the strategy, which is where Matt Fitzpatrick finished 5th. It reminds me in difficulty of the Sunday that we just had at Muirfield Village. T5, and he gained 6 strokes to the field on Sunday. He's a U.S. Open winner. His short game is good enough. He is going to play a practice round Monday with Jason Scrivener, Victor Hovland, and Eduardo Molinari. Let me see if I can share this. So here's the current Monday practice tee times. Okay. Now this is, we're deep in it now, but it's the US Open. So we would want to be. So that group has 2 different 9s. So they're playing 18 together. 209, they're going off number 1. 315, they're going off number 10. Why is this important? Victor Hovland is a highly strategic golfer. So is Matt Fitzpatrick. Very data-driven, very strategic. Eduardo Molinari is basically the decade guy for the Euros, right? So the strategy of how to play golf courses, Eduardo Molinari is that guy for a lot of professional golfers and especially a lot of European guys. Was a big part of the Ryder Cup team and their stats and their information. So when you go to a golf course that not a lot of guys have played, where I think it's going to be highly strategic, I want 18 holes with this group, right? They are going to download so much information on Monday. I cannot wait. So just throwing it out there. There's a lot of good things in Matt Fitzpatrick's favor here. There's some really interesting names here in the 7K range. Probably going to need to see more out of Jordan Spieth. Just can't do it right now. Terrell Hatton, I think, might be one of the more valuable plays on the slate. $7,800, excuse me. Routinely gains throughout the bag, has a very sound and tidy short game, has played decent golf, right? Like when we were doing those power rankings and we were doing a lot of those different, like Tara Hutton's name pops up a lot. Um, I think we could be in for maybe the best US Open result for, well, I guess that wouldn't be that hard. T6 at Shinnecock is his best result. And you look at his major championship stuff even recently, T9 at the Masters this year, and that was the end of 4 straight top 27s. He finished T63 at the PGA Championship, where he lost a ton of strokes on approach over the final 2 days and kind of gave that thing up, but had a good first couple of days as well. I think he's very, very live. I think Shane Lowry is just fool's gold, right? He is, I mentioned this on CBS Sports during one of our live hits. He was running so good and continues to be over the course of the last couple of weeks, right? He gains like 9.5 strokes putting at the PGA Championship. He holed out multiple times from all over the yard at Memorial. He is on the upside of the bell, like the outlier curve. And it all came crashing down in round 4 last week on Sunday. And I think it's probably still coming back down to earth. That is super scary. And he might model somewhat well, because maybe not because that 10 strokes gained or 10 strokes that he lost on Sunday, but like he could model well. And I think it's kind of fool's goldy. The Tom Kim stuff, I don't know what happened to the putter at Muirfield Village, because it looked like he had plugged that leak dating back to Harbortown. I love to see this. I'm loving the ball striking that we're getting from Tom Kim. He's putting the ball in the fairway much more frequently now. He seems to be getting those second shots dialed in. I'm willing to forgive this, and I think $7,300 is a pretty good price for Tom Kim. And then the other thing, okay, actually, there's a lot down here at the bottom of this range. Sam Burns quietly playing better. He has not had the major championship career that I think a lot of us were expecting at this point, but played well at the Memorial, played well at the Canadian Open, played well at Wells Fargo. He did miss the cut at the PGA Championship, but listen, there were a lot of guys that missed the cut at the PGA Championship. His major championship record is poopy. It's horrible, right? I mean, he's missed 3 straight cuts. His best finish ever is a 20th at the PGA Championship in 2022. I'm going to be very, very brave here and say Sam Burns has his best major championship performance of his career. Might be a T18, might not win you any money at all, but I think we are ready for it. I think it is here. Sungjae Im is long from my heart and always has a spot in it. But we are talking about a $7,100 player who is a proven sound short game player. Gained 8 last week. He's not going to do that again. But it's not out of their own possibilities, because he gained 7 at Quail Hollow too, right? And he gains multiple strokes in the short game categories a lot. Who has not lost strokes off the tee since Honda, Cognizant, and is kind of giving us life on approach a little bit. Still giving us some bad rounds here and there. And now has 4 top 12 finishes in his last 5 starts. Yeah, I like that guy. He's not going to miss every cut at majors this year, right? He missed the one at the Masters, missed one at the PGA Championship. I think Sungjae is trending beautifully. $6,900 and below. This is where you saw a lot of those trend guys, right? Guys that are playing over their head. You saw guys in the 6K range. You saw guys in the 5K range. There are a couple that, are pretty, I don't want to say they're mispriced, because major championships are usually very soft pricing, but look at this. So in terms of strokes gained trend, so taking golfers last 24 rounds, adding it or subtracting it from their 100-round baseline, creating a new number. Dean Burmeister is like the 12th best player in this field. He's 6,800. Sepp Straka is right at John Rahm level right now, because Rahm's playing down and Straka's playing up based on baselines. He's 6,500. Billy Horschel, who's been great, 6,600. Alex Noren, 69. Bezadenhout, 62. Russell Henley, 69. I mean, these are feasting numbers. I won't. I don't. I mean, I guess if you're here, maybe you want to see it. I was gonna say I won't bore you with all of these guys, but because you probably haven't been paying attention to what's going on Live, Dean Burmeister's been crushing it. He won Live Golf Miami, and that was after a lead up of 2 wins in December on the DP World Tour. Some good golf on Live, and then he continued it with 2 straight top 15s, and then he finished 12th at the PGA Championship. Finished 18th in Live Houston last week. That's a bunch of green on this stat profile. Oh my God. I mean, Noren. Noren bounces right back after the miscut at the RBC Canadian and finishes T22 at the Memorial. He is a bogey avoidance guy. He is a grind it out guy, right? Let's look at these numbers again. Boom. Still lost on approach. Very good short game. This dates back to the start of the year. Who else was on that list? Billy Horschel. Billy Horschel, I believe, also charged a bit. I think he at least got into the top 30 last week. Let's see. Oh my gosh, yeah, T15. I mean, Billy's run, he wins Punta Cana, then struggles a little bit, no worries. T8 at the PGA, T24 at the Charles Schwab, T15 at the Memorial. He's playing great golf. How about Keegan Bradley? Right? We've been tracking Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley's $6,800. We've been tracking Keegan Bradley forever. He was bad over the weekend at the Memorial. Still finished T43. Is putting great. That's the thing that unlocks the rest of him. That was a stretch of 3 straight top 21 finishes, including a second. Sepp Straka we haven't talked about. Sepp Straka is so much better now than he was a year ago. He finds the fairway more than just about anybody else on the PGA Tour. He's got back-to-back top 5 finishes. This man, Sepp Straka, has 6 top 16 finishes in his last 7 starts. He hits more fairways than just about anybody. He's gained 3 or more strokes to the field in like all of those starts. His short game is tidy. What are we doing with Sepp Straka at $6,500? And then Christian Bezuidenhout, who got off to a really good start last week and was able to finish a 4th at Memorial. He's put together a great play ever since he switched coaches is what he did. And his approach play has gotten much better. And he's always been one of the best putters in the world. You could conceivably make a pretty darn good lineup from the 6K golfers alone. Seriously, if you wanted to roll out Scotty and any combination of Noren, Burmeister, Keegan, Horschel, Sepp Straka, Christian Bezuidenhout, Adrian Meronk, Russell Henley, I think you'd be fine. I seriously think you'd be pretty fine. Let's look up Meronk. I was all over Meronk like 4 weeks ago. I was betting him left and right. Did not end up working out. I loved him at the PGA Championship. That did not. Oh, was it the Masters I loved him at? I can't remember. I think it was the PGA Championship. Missed the cut at both, so it doesn't matter. It was either one. He's been great on Live. I think it's worth another shot. He's such a talented putter. He's a great driver. I do worry about the short game. I do worry that maybe the stage is too big for him, quite honestly, because his major championship performance has not been good. Tiger Woods is here. Anytime I get a chance to show Tiger Woods' stat profile, I'm going to show it. You will not see me investing in Tiger Woods unless it's fades of Tiger. But just for old memory, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Tiger's majors and Tiger's majors wins. And we're just going to look at this beautiful profile in which he gained so many strokes to the field. All of his major championship wins. Just absolutely gorgeous. But going to be tough to back the big cat at $6,400. I kind of want to get into some of these guys that, you might not have heard a lot about. Tom McKibben is here. So he's playing primarily on the European Tour. T8 at the European Open. That's a big event for them. T23 at the China Open. T7 at the ISPS Handa. So he's got 4 top 23s with 3 of them being actually I probably need to click his profile. It's that good. I mean, if you're at this point in the show, you're here for this. So here's Tom McKibben's profile. Yeah. And the metrics that we do have from the European Tour, very good driver, pretty well-rounded, good stuff there from Tom. Victor Perez has played well. Back-to-back starts, 12th and 3rd. Now we start to get to the spot that I get a little bit worried here. I think the 6K range is packed with great options. I don't know that the 5K range is. David Puig is remotely interesting. He qualified into this event, um, open qualified. T3 in Houston, fifth at the Saudi Open. He's been playing a lot of good golf all over the globe. You can see he finished second in Macau. He won in Malaysia earlier this year, 10th in Oman. Very talented international golfer, and he earned his way into this field, but I think it's very high risk, high reward. Harry Higgs won back-to-back starts on the Corn Ferry Tour before missing the cut last week. Finds a lot of fairways and a lot of greens. I've been bullish, so like I also kind of know where to draw the line sometimes. I've been very high on Nick Dunlap. I think I will suspend that for a week and worry about that later down the road. There's just not a lot to love this far down the list. Tim Whiting's been great on the Corn Ferry, but that's about it. I do like, okay, so I will tell you this. Frankie Sappin, I talk about Frankie Sappin all the time. And anybody, if you listen to anybody who calls him Frankie Cappin, they don't know what they're talking about. That's just a good, like, if someone says, oh, I hit a birdie, it's like, they're a fraud. That's how you know they're a fraud. So Frankie Sappin he's great. I got my first exposure to him last year at the US Open, and he's super talented. He's been great on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's got a bunch of top tens just in the last handful of weeks. Very, very good player. 5,400. He also qualified his way in, which I love. What else we got down here? Isaiah Salinda will grade really, really well. Just a small sample size thing. He's not a bad player, but just keep that in mind. Wow, there are a lot of min price golfers. We are going to get, so, full disclosure, I'm doing this Sunday night after the conclusion of the Memorial. So I know the results of that, but like Adam Scott is going to be added to this field on Monday when the new OWGR stuff comes out. So this will change a little bit. That Wednesday live chat will be really helpful. Again, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Custom model. Let's run a model. So go sign up for RickRunGood.com. You get access to all the tours, all the tools, all the player profiles, and the custom model. So here's what we're going to do for this week. We need a well-rounded golfer with a sound short game. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to do, first off, let's do our weighted strokes gained total. Just 10. Just give everybody a baseline, right? Just 10 weights there. Give everybody a baseline. Then we are going to go strokes gained around the green last 50. I want you to be pretty talented. Oh, that's 100 for a long time. 20. Strokes gained putting last 24, 10. Strokes gained approach last 24, 20. Strokes gained off the tee last 24, 15. And then what I'll also do is I will hit an extra 5 on accuracy. We are going to go to long courses and hard courses. So let's put 10 on each of those. That's all of our weights. Do we want to do something else like bogey avoidance? If we did bogey avoidance, we'd have to take off of something. Oh, well, we can do that on Wednesday. All right, so my number one golfer, no surprise, Scotty Scheffler. Xander 2, Morikawa 3, that's pretty big. Rory 4, Ludwig, Hideki, Tommy Fleetwood, Bryson, Alex Noren, Aaron Rye is my top 10. JT, Justin Thomas, 11th. Finau, Hatton, Henley, and Rahm round out the top 15. Yeah, Brooks is 16th. Victor is 17th. Fitzpatrick's 21st. Just trying to see if there's any big outliers here. I'm going to, I am going to favor Billy Horschel and some of these guys in that 6K range that I really liked. Sepp Straka, Bezadenhout, just so I have access to these guys later. Okay. I'm going to stop there. We're going to do a lot more this week. I've got a newsletter coming out. You can sign up for that, rickrungood.com/newsletter. The link to everything you need is always in the description. If you like this, hit the like button. If you really like it, subscribe to rickrungood.com. Yeah, I'll see you guys Wednesday. Good luck.